What happens when a titan of the industry, a name connected with success and glamour, finds his empire teetering on the brink of collapse, not from bad business, but from whispers that grew into deafening accusations? This isn't just about chart-topping hits or fashion lines. It's about an empire under siege, as Sean Combs, one of the most prominent figures in modern music and culture, faces a firestorm of allegations that are as shocking as they are numerous. The public has watched his ascent, but now it's transfixed by a potential freefall that could redefine his entire public image, with a high-stakes federal trial now bringing these dark claims into the plain light of a courtroom. The music community, and certainly the wider public, was rocked to its core when federal agents, in a highly publicized and dramatic move, swarmed Sean Combs's opulent mansions in Los Angeles and Miami. News helicopters broadcast images of Homeland Security investigations personnel conducting searches, a clear and undeniable signal that the situation had escalated far beyond mere industry gossip or civil disputes. This dramatic show of force hinted that something far more serious was afoot, leaving many asking what could possibly lead to such an intense federal intervention into the life of a global icon. The implications were immediate and plain, suggesting that the foundation of Diddy's carefully crafted image was cracking under immense pressure. But this explosive show of force, it turns out, wasn't the true beginning of the storm that was gathering, a storm whose origins trace back to one woman's decision to speak out. The seeds of this tempest, reports suggest, were sown months earlier, in November 2023, when Cassie Ventura, the singer and actress known professionally as Cassie, and once closely associated with Diddy and his iconic Bad Boy label, filed a bombshell civil lawsuit. She was just 19 when their decade-long relationship reportedly began, a significant 17-year age difference separating her from the established mogul. The details contained within her legal filings were stomach-churning, alleging years of intense and terrifying control, harrowing physical encounters, and the unthinkable claim of being forced into sexual situations with others against her will. The lawsuit was settled with astonishing speed, reportedly just a day after it was filed, yet the graphic accusations lingered powerfully in the public consciousness. The very nature of the claims, detailing a reported pattern of demeaning behavior, served as a dark prelude. This initial civil action, though resolved, is widely seen as the catalyst that brought the disturbing allegations into the mainstream, opening a Pandora's box, and, it's been said, emboldened others who had remained silent for far too long. Now, at 38 years old and reportedly heavily pregnant, Cassie has become victim number one and the key witness in the government's criminal case against Combs. Inside the federal courtroom, where no cameras or audio are permitted, Cassie Ventura's testimony has reportedly been both riveting and deeply disturbing. She described a relationship that initially had moments of fun but chillingly devolved into a pattern of violent arguments that would usually result in some sort of physical abuse, dragging. She testified that Combs introduced her to certain sex acts. She initially believed they were monogamous. She later confirmed both saw other people, adding that Combs was insanely jealous. The physical violence, as she recounted, was frequent and brutal. She spoke of Combs allegedly threatening to stomp her in the head if she was down, leading to black eyes and bruises. Beyond the physical, she detailed psychological torment, with Combs allegedly telling her to watch my mouth, change my face. One of the most shocking parts of her testimony centered on what she termed freak-offs. She defined these as situations where Combs would hire escorts, both male and female, for her to perform asexual acts with, as he watched, often directing the encounters. Eventually, it became a job for me, pretty much, she reportedly stated, a chilling admission of how normalized this alleged exploitation became. Her initial feelings about these encounters were, she said, confused, nervous, but also loved him very much, painting a complex picture of coercion entangled with emotional attachment. She testified that Combs controlled vast swaths of her life, and she lived in fear, believing that saying no to him would ignite his anger. This fear was allegedly compounded by Combs possessing blackmail materials, videos of her during these sexual encounters, which she feared he would release, stating he had many resources to do that. To maintain this alleged control, Combs would reportedly send security personnel or trusted assistants, with Cassie naming particular individuals like David James and Christina Coram, to keep tabs on her, ensuring his influence was ever present. Then came the indelible image, a piece of evidence that seared itself into the public's mind, the 2016 hotel surveillance video. When Cassie was shown this footage in court, the grainy, silent images allegedly showing Combs in a hotel hallway, engaging in a brutal and sustained physical assault, its impact was profound. But her testimony added an explosive new dimension. She confirmed that this horrific attack happened after one of the alleged freak-offs. This very important link, according to legal observers, transforms the video from solely evidence of horrific domestic violence into potential corroboration for the far more severe charges of sex trafficking. It suggests the violence wasn't just a byproduct of a tumultuous relationship, but a tool used to enforce compliance within the alleged coercive sexual scheme. The defense has called the video indefensible, conceding to domestic violence, but this connection to the freak-offs is what the prosecution is leveraging to build its trafficking case, arguing it demonstrates the force and coercion involved. Prosecutors and federal investigators have woven these numerous threads and harrowing accounts, particularly Cassie's detailed testimony, into a far more complex and damning picture, the framework of a criminal enterprise. Sean Combs faces charges including sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, racketeering conspiracy, RICO, and transporting sex workers for prostitution. The racketeering charge is particularly grave, alleging that Diddy ran his businesses and affairs as an ongoing criminal enterprise, using his legitimate operations and staff to facilitate and cover up a shocking array of illicit activities. These underlying predicate acts, key for a RICO conviction, reportedly include kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the various forms of sexual exploitation described. The prosecution's challenge is immense, as they must explain to a jury how these activities, occurring within opulent and often unorthodox celebrity circles, constitute a criminal racketeering enterprise, particularly when Diddy is the sole individual charged in this specific indictment. The thin line, repeatedly highlighted in legal analyses, is coercion. The battle lines in the courtroom are plainly drawn. The prosecution's strategy hinges heavily on Cassie Ventura's credibility. Her testimony is considered the linchpin, with legal experts noting the case either rises or falls with her testimony. They aim to use her detailed account of physical abuse, psychological manipulation, the freak-offs, and the alleged blackmail to establish the elements of force, fraud, or coercion necessary for a sex trafficking conviction, and they are expected to call corroborating witnesses like the male performer who already testified to being hired by both Cassie and Combs for sexual encounters and potentially the assistants Cassie named. Conversely, the defense concedes that Combs engaged in domestic violence and was, as they put it, a jealous and angry man, yet is fighting to dismantle the more severe charges. Their argument, it appears, is that the relationship, though undeniably dysfunctional and marred by inexcusable violence, involved consensual elements, and that Cassie was often a willing, if complicated, participant, rather than a systematically coerced victim of trafficking. They seek to sever the domestic violence from the racketeering and trafficking allegations, portraying them as distinct issues. Another defense tactic is to highlight Cassie's previous settled civil lawsuit, suggesting it could be a motive for fabrication or embellishment in her current testimony, a move aimed at undermining her credibility before the jury. The legal hurdles for the prosecution are significant. proving coercion over a decade-long, incredibly complex relationship where the alleged victim, it is said, took part in arranging some encounters, even if under duress, as she claims, is a monumental task. The bar for a RICO conviction is notoriously high, requiring proof of a pattern of racketeering activity and the existence of an ongoing criminal enterprise. If convicted on the major charges like racketeering or sex trafficking, Combs could face life in prison, with a 15-year minimum for sex trafficking. The lesser charge of transporting for prostitution carries a maximum of 10 years. A conviction solely on that transportation charge would likely be viewed as a significant win for the defense. The stakes could not be higher, as the man who built a global brand from the ground up now fights for his freedom and what remains of his reputation. As the legal battle intensifies, the public watches, captivated, horrified, and perhaps for some, deeply disillusioned. Is this the final, ignominious act for a music mogul, a long overdue reckoning for alleged decades of abuse and exploitation that were allowed to fester beneath a veneer of success? Or is there another, more complex side to this story, yet to be fully seen and revealed through the due process of law? The answers that emerge from this trial, built upon testimony as harrowing as Cassie Ventura's, could redefine not just one man's public image, and could force a painful and necessary societal look at the darkness that can fester beneath the brightest of spotlights, and the accountability that must follow, no matter how prominent the individual. The fallout from this case, regardless of the verdict, will undoubtedly resonate for years to come, a somber reflection of the hidden realities that can lurk behind even the most gilded facades of fame.